food we eat comes from the environment. The houses we live is within this environment. The businesses we do is within this environment. If we do not protect this environment, we're actually harming ourselves. This project came from a need to see our beaches cleaner, our oceans cleaner, and to ensure that we have healthier communities around our coastlines. It was fulfilling. I'm really proud of the turnout. I'm really proud that the beach is clean. Coming earlier this morning. The things that the project is aimed at is to teach everyone, no one is left out, how to sort out their waste at source. That would help Loma to manage our waste better, and the waste channels that these deaths come from into the ocean will become bereft of any plastics at all.
So beyond today's cleanup, we're going to come back next week. People will be cleaning the beach. Next month, people will be cleaning them every day. So we're involving this community because they own the beach, they own the community. And so when you talk about sustainability, if you take out the community from wherever you're working, the people living in the community, then your sustainability idea is not complete. And so because we're working with them, we make them see the fact that they can make wealth from the waste.
And tourism should not also be about privilege alone. People who are not up there in the socio-economic strata should be able to actually come to public beaches, come to open beaches and have fun.
The Sterling One Foundation is a vehicle for positive social impact across critical sectors in the economy. One of such critical sectors is health.
We are looking for more donors, more partners, and we're catering for, I dare say, the general public.
Gentlemen, my name is Frank Bogun, and I am the publisher of Business Day. Permit me to take the delight in welcoming you all to this digital conference. As you all know, today is the World Health Day, a day dedicated since 1970 to the demonstration of global support for environmental protection. This initiative began through the action of just one man in 1970, Senator Gaylord Nelson. And it's today being commemorated around the world. This fact that it all started with the work of one man reinforces the fact that our actions as individuals, corporates, states can indeed go a long way in ensuring the safety and sustainability of our environment. Waste and environmental challenges are an ever-present challenge across the globe, and especially here in Lagos and in Nigeria. The situation across many parts of Lagos indicate clearly the urgency of the challenge that we face and the urgent need to respond to this challenge. At Business Day, we proudly took a place in Apapa many years ago and thought it was the best location from where to do our business. But of course, you all know how challenged Apapa is today. When you mention Apapa to people, there is one image that comes to their mind, and that is environmental degradation brought about by years of traffic chaos. Over the years, businesses and corporates have become more focused on environmental issues, and many have gone as far as building different CSR initiatives that take their root in their desire for environmental preservation. Governments also speak of a number of very interesting initiatives and goals, but the sad reality is that these have remained largely words. What should be our strategies going forward as a result of the challenge we face and the inadequate response that we see so far, whether it be from government or whether it be from business actors? And the question has to be asked, are CSR initiatives by themselves enough? How about institutionalizing more sustainable environmental operations through our value chains? These and more, in my view, need urgent answers, and I hope some of that answers will come true in our conversation today. We are glad to have some of these corporates join us in facilitating today's dialogue around this waste, corporate citizens for clean cities. I'd like to thank our knowledge partner, Green Hub Africa, who have worked with us to stage today's event. Our special thanks at Business Day also go to our sponsors, the Coca-Cola Company, Pan-African Capital Foundation, Sterling Bank PLC, and Tetra Pak. We also would like to thank the array of speakers and panelists that have joined us or will be joining us in the course of this session. Once again, let me formally welcome you all, including, of course, our audience, some of whom have dialed in from different parts of the world. I do hope that we will together aim to move the work around environmental sustainability forward. do accept my wish for an engaging and fruitful deliberation. Thank you very much, and God bless you. I will, at this point, now take the pleasure and privilege in calling on the representative of Edward Kalun, our very good friend, Ronald, to take the floor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Frank, for, first of all, the remarks that you have made. And I would like to thank you as publisher of Business Day, working with Green Hub Africa for organizing this very timely event. As you have indicated, I'm representing the UN Resident Coordinator for Nigeria, Mr. Edward Kalun, who is unavoidably absent at this event, but has sent me with a message to share with all of you. I am honored to address this maiden DISWASTE Conference and to participate in such a timely forum on Earth Day 2021. I would like to thank Business Day and the Green Hub Africa and all others that have supported organizing this event. Earth Day provides an opportunity for us to reflect on nature's true value as the foundation of all life on this planet. It is a day to remind ourselves that we, humanity, are not separate from the world around us, and that there is no planet B. That we must gather together at this conference virtually rather than in person is also a stark expression of our connection to the natural world and our reliance on it. We meet in this unusual way after one of the most unusual years in our lifetimes. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused unprecedented levels of chaos, disruption, and death across the globe. In Nigeria, progress has been made on controlling this pandemic, but as you know, it's not yet over. The country's health and economic systems continue to struggle under the immense pressure of this pandemic. Now, this painful experience ought to reinforce the necessity of living in harmony with nature, encouraging humankind to seek a balanced and resilient future for people and planet alike. However, this global pandemic may be an early preview or even greater challenges which may come if the climate emergency is not addressed with greater urgency. Human-caused climate change is the ultimate indicator of nature's disharmony. Of course, those countries that have contributed the least to climate change are already suffering some of its worst impacts. We don't have to look for examples very far. Nigeria's Middle Belt is host to a farmer-herder conflict exacerbated by climate change due to increased competition for limited natural resources. And therefore, it is reassuring that President Muhammad Buhari will later this afternoon attend the White House Virtual Climate Summit, along with 40 other world leaders. This event is a key milestone on the road to COP26 in Glasgow this November. With climate action sidetracked and set back by this pandemic, efforts to reduce emissions must be renewed and withdrawn as we confront the urgency of now. Our absolute priority is to keep the limit of the temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius, as outlined in the Paris Agreement, in order to minimize the worst effects of climate change. Our mission for sustainable development here in Nigeria has likewise encountered setbacks during this year of the pandemic. Our hard-won gains are in jeopardy. Priorities shifted and focus changed understandably after this public health emergency. But there is hope, because the pandemic also will create its own opportunities. We have a chance during the post-COVID recovery efforts not to just reset the economy, but transform it, to build back better, as we always say, and to build back greener. Ladies and gentlemen, today's conference is focused on pollution, recycling, and waste in cities, issues that plague rapidly urbanizing nations like Nigeria. I would like to outline a key initiative, one important initiative that the UN is developing around these issues, a project which has been driven by the United Nations Industrial Development Program organization, UNIDO. Our goal is to make Nigerian cities cleaner, greener, more livable, and more sustainable. For the past year, UNIDO has been undertaking a comprehensive study on how to combat plastic pollution in Nigeria. This ambitious project was conducted in collaboration with the federal government of Nigeria and the government of Japan. It set out to examine the feasibility of sustainable alternatives to plastics, the applicability of cutting-edge innovations in packaging and recycling technologies, and the context of market needs in Nigeria. The plastics industry is an important pillar of the Nigerian economy and an employer of many thousands of people. However, its waste output can be the scourge of cities and oceans if not managed properly. Furthermore, a growing body of research is highlighting the dangers of microplastics, even in our food systems and water resources. Hence, the study seeks to find solutions that will benefit people and planet alike. This assessment of plastic waste has been ongoing in both Lagos and Abuja in partnership with the Ministry of Environment of Lagos State Government and the Abuja Environment Protection Board. And cooperation for this study has centered on 5 areas. First, it looked at the roles and responsibilities of stakeholders in this important sector. We sought a 360-degree view through interactions with government, manufacturers, recyclers, NGOs, residents, and a cross-section of industry players like Coca-Cola, Heineken, and the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. Second, the study examined various industries' core technologies, infrastructure, and processes. It specifically worked with the government on how to introduce the circular economy into key sectors like food and beverages, steel and metals, textiles and wood, and furniture. Also, the study considered how resource efficiency and production can be adopted by industries in product design and life cycle management. Third, we assessed the plastics value chain from manufacturing to collection to sorting to recycling and to disposal. The value chain has had to realign also in this era of COVID-19 with the addition of the new array of plastics in masks, PPE, and other healthcare waste. Fourth, the study explored the most effective policy and regulatory frameworks for plastics and waste. The UN has supported the federal government in developing 2 important policies: a national policy on solid waste management and a national policy on plastics management. Both policies were approved by the Federal Executive Council last October. Furthermore, the UN has supported the government in its efforts to meet international obligations as a signatory to the 1989 Basel Convention, which regulates the transboundary movement of hazardous waste such as plastics. And fifth, the all-important area of advocacy and education was also surveyed. One outcome is that the UN and UNIDO will develop the capacities of media via training and workshops later within this year. The purpose is twofold: to help the media better understand the concepts like the circular economy, resource efficiency, and cleaner production, and to enable the media to communicate these the issues. Some of these issues sound so technical, but we should enable the media to communicate them in a language that the public will understand. And I'm really happy that we are having this event with the foremost media organization, Business Day, and another technical and civil society organization, Green Hub Africa. So the finalized report of this project will be released in June, and we look forward to sharing it with all of you. I will leave you with one final thought on this Earth Day. We will only preserve Mother Earth through a radical change from human-centric thinking to ecosystem-centered thinking. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Kayanja. That was really, really loaded, and we're really excited to hear all the things you shared. And just taking it from listening to the publisher much earlier, he talked about an urgency, that urgency from an experience that he has personally had with an office in Apapa and all the traffic and the challenges. And then he also spoke about brands and, you know, the CSR initiatives. But again, the one thing that was called out is that we can't be talking, it's time for action. And then immediately after, just listening to Mr. Kayanja talk about No Planet B and speak to some really critical things around what the UN is doing with regards to how COVID has changed the way we live. I mean, we're having this meeting virtually right now. And it's really exciting to hear that there's a movement that is headed in the right direction. Because when we talk about meeting the targets of the Paris Agreement, when we talk about goals of a cleaner and a greener Lagos and Nigeria, when he talked about 5 key areas and the 360 degrees involvement of stakeholders, these are critical things that are really close to our heart at Green Up Africa. And also with our partners Business Day, it's profound to hear that there's a movement in this direction. One thing that he ended his speech with was very clear. There needs to be radical change. Radical change on policy, radical change on how we approach the issues of the environment. And of course, it was music to our ears to hear that there's a plan in place to build capacity, to train the media, and to create a lot more awareness by demystifying the subjects of environmental sustainability, which is why Green Up Africa exists, to push the advocacy for this conversation. So it's an exciting time. I'm going to say that we are in for a very rich session. And so without much ado, I would like to move into the business of the day and take on to panel 1. And in panel 1, we have an exciting array of speakers. The theme for the panel is the scourge of plastic. And just listening to that theme, it takes my mind back to just looking at data on the issues of how much plastic has been produced globally. Data is a challenge, but if we look at the data that exists between the inception to 2015, we are aware that about 8.3 billion tons of plastic has been produced. And from that perspective, the challenges of trying to address these issues are priceless. There's a need for us to really put our hands on the plow and address this issue. So I'll go into the panel discussion now. We have one, and it's an exciting panel made up of a mix of stakeholders. We have Professor Eberhorn. I don't know if it's on the call yet, but I'm going to get all the panelists to introduce themselves for 2 minutes, just talking about what they do, and then we will go into the meat of the conversation. The objective of this session is to make it quite interactive. Also going to be quite time conscious because we recognize that we have really just under an hour to knock this out. So I will call on the different panelists, and when I call on them, please introduce yourself, tell us what you do for 1-2 minutes, and then we'll move to the next panelist. So I'll start with Professor Eberhorn. I don't know if he's on the call yet. Prof, are you on? It doesn't appear like Prof is on. So we'll move to, but I can see Prof there, so I'm not sure why he's not responding.
Sorry, I think my speaker was, can you hear me now?
Okay, we can hear you now. We can hear you now. So
Yes.
you're wearing two caps, and so we'd appreciate you introducing yourself quickly, and then we can move to the next panelist.
Right. Basically, I'm Professor Eberhorn. I'm a professor of sustainability and environmental law at London South Bank University. I also sit on the board of United Nations Habitat, on the advisory board, and also sit as an expert advisory group to some local authorities in the UK. And I'm also the chairman of international advisory board for Green Hub Africa. So it's a pleasure being with you this morning.
Thank you, Prof. I'd like Engineer Nubi to please introduce herself quickly.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shade Nubi. I'm a civil and environmental engineer. I work with the University of Lagos. I'm also in charge of environmental sustainability for the university. I also double as the board member for PAC Foundation, which is the CSR arm of the Pan-Africa Holdings. Of course, the holdings actually support education, health, environment, and economic empowerment. And as we know, PAC is one of the leading investment companies leading the campaign when it comes to environmental sustainability. I'm a lover of the environment. I'm also a researcher when it comes to circular economy. I do projects with the EMF and the Chatham House, and then we've had several projects working on circular economy. It's really very exciting this morning to be here to actually speak on a topic that is really, really very important as of this time. Thank you.
Henry.
It seems we lost the moderator for a bit there. I'll just go ahead to ask Amaka to introduce herself too. Amaka, over to you.
Okay, thank you, and good morning, good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you sit. My name is Amaka Onyemelukwe. I'm the Director for Public Affairs, Communications, and Sustainability for the Coca-Cola Company here in Nigeria. For us as a company, we have a packaging vision that a world without waste is possible. And based on that, I've actually been responsible implementing and working with varied partners to ensure that our packaging vision is a reality here in Nigeria. So I'm excited to be here today, and I look forward to discussing this very important topic for us as a company, and to brainstorm and share ideas on how we can actually build more cleaner and sustainable cities. Thank you.
Thank you. We'd like George, Dr. George on. Could you introduce yourself? And then we'll have Daniel Adedoku also introduce himself. Is Daniel on the call? Okay, so Can we have Oluyomi Banjo introduce himself?
Thank you and good morning, everyone. My name is Oluyomi Banjo. I'm the environment expert for UNIDO Regional Office. UNIDO is the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, and the office oversees activities of UNIDO, Nigeria, and the West African region. I work on issues of environment, mining, and water. Today, I'll be representing my regional director, Mr. Jean Bakole. We are happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. We can begin to have the conversation, but in the process of having the conversation, I'd like to start with questions that are specific to grants. And the format is really that I will ask questions, and obviously after I've targeted the question at someone, if anyone else wants to add a bit more value to the response, if we have enough time, we'll take that response. I'll start with Amaka, and I will be asking her, just listening to all the data with regards to the scourge of plastic and all the challenges that the world is dealing with. We know that generally the issues around plastic start from when we talk about microplastics, macroplastics, micro to nanoplastics. These are all the different forms that plastic take. And of course, as it gets smaller, it becomes a huge challenge. So as Coca-Cola won all the space and who's actively doing things to the issue, please tell us, what Coach's approach is with regards to reducing the amount of plastic that's entering the environment.
Thank you very much for that question. So for us at Coca-Cola, we fully recognize the fact that the world have a packaging problem. And as a leading beverage company who uses a lot of packaging materials or packaging, who does our packaging and delivers our products to consumers with packaging, plastic packaging, we believe that we have a responsibility to help solve that challenge. So based on that, in January 2018, sorry, I hope I'm clear. I'm having some echo.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So in January 2018, we made a bold and ambitious goal to actually ensure that 100% of the products we put out there in trade, that we will help collect and recycle it by the year 2030. And not only that, we would also ensure that 50% of our packaging materials actually makes use of recycled content by the same 2030. And how do we aim to achieve this? Definitely, we discovered that we can't actually achieve it alone. And that is why we look at it under 3 pillars. From the way we design our packaging materials to the way we would partner with people to help collect, and also on the partner pillar. So basically, our World Without Waste vision is tailored on these 3 approaches. On the design, we definitely want to design better bottles for today and for tomorrow. Our research and development team is already in the lab doing a lot of test run, which has already started in some markets, discovering alternative to plastic. We have a paper bottle that is actually being test run last year to see how we can always come up with alternatives to plastic packaging. And also in Nigeria, you are fully aware that we have the glass, which is an element of our packaging that we are also trying to ensure that more people accept glass and use it when possible. That way, we reduce the amount of plastic packaging that goes to the environment. And on the packaging side also, we are doing a lot of lightweighting activities where we are particularly seeking to reduce the amount of plastic that we introduce to the environment. And of course, we realize that packaging materials actually is part of our everyday life. So from trying to help solve food wastages to also delivering packages to consumers. Of course, in the light of COVID, we discovered that there was actually a scourge in the use of plastic materials from, just think about yourself when you wake up every morning until you go to bed, the amount of things you come in contact with on packaging, because people have, both small scale farmers have actually realized that they have to deliver their goods in some form of packaging, and most times these are actually plastics. And that is where the collect pillar comes under. So over the last 2 years, we have actually significantly increased our investments, either in terms of grants or in terms of how we have supported with infrastructure development with existing collectors and aggregators to be able to reduce or to collect those plastic packaging materials so that they can be recycled. And of course, we realize in Nigeria, there's serious infrastructure deficit or gap. Even sometimes these materials are collected, but then definitely there is no industry that converts them to other uses. And that is a huge focus for us over the last 2 years. And we are happy that under our partner pillar, we have led the industry. So a partnership that started as far back as 2012, where we had brought like-minded sector, for example, Nigerian breweries, we partnered with Nestle, the 7-Up, and we have today set up a PRO organization to be able to solve or lead the EPR implementation for Nigeria. And ever since then, we have that 4-member organization has evolved to today over 16 member companies. And that is a critical example where we have discovered that actually we can compete in the marketplace, but for social good, definitely in this area of solving the scourge of plastic packaging, we have all come together to make sure that we come up and work with government to build policies that support recycling infrastructure. And ever since then, I can't say that at least for the last year, we had achieved today the use of rPET facility. When I say rPET, I mean recycled packaging materials have been approved by the Standard Organization of Nigeria. We have investors actually putting down investment in Nigeria to convert this plastic packaging into other uses. And that is actually the game changer we have seen that would ensure that more plastic are actually collected and recycled into other uses today. I will stop there for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's quite a lot you've unpacked right there. But we'll come back to some of the things you've mentioned. I would like to then switch the notch a bit higher and move to Professor Eberhard, who is a leading professor in environmental law and sustainability. Like he shared, he's also the chair at Green Hub Africa. Now, when we talk about plastic, we talk a lot about the issues around the environment. And of course, there's a lot of talk around the R's, the refuse, the reuse, the recycle, the repurpose, and all of that. Now, because this is something that constantly shows up in your line of work, Prof, how best can we apply these R's in the Nigerian context to curb the issue of plastic pollution? You're muted, Prof. We can't hear you. We still cannot hear you, Prof.
Yeah, sorry, you should be able to hear me now. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, you can hear me now. Yeah, thank you very much, Henry, for this exciting question. The 5R, first of all, is a model that is used to deconstruct a very, very complex actions, decisions, and responsibilities for individuals and groups, as well as corporate bodies, government and non-governmental organizations, regarding possible actions, responsibility that they have to assume in order to drastically reduce the scourge of waste generally. In terms of plastic, you find that the 5R assumes one very critical importance. It believes that the lack of awareness and responsibility has contributed immensely to pollution generally, particularly the use of plastic. So awareness and then creating a mechanism to hold everyone responsible for their action is critical. And then you look at when you then adopt 5R, it enhances awareness and understanding of environmental impact of plastic, okay? It begs the question, why recycle when there's no need to do so? In other words, what it's actually saying is that there are so many other issues that can be dealt with, other options that are available before you talk about recycling of plastic. We talk about reuse, reduce, repurpose, recycle, and so on and so forth. And so what that does is that it plays a very huge, significant role in helping to guide our thinking and actions. Okay? So if you go back to refuse, for example, we have the right to make a choice and refuse wasteful and polluting products. You can refuse to purchase products, packages, and manners and damage the environment when especially you dispose the wraps and the boxes. You can choose to refuse to buy items that contain single-use plastic and the individually packaged. And then you have a number of international policies, etc., that are coming in now. Same thing we reduce. You can reduce waste. Then how do you make the difference? You don't stop buying more than you need. You buy less than you need. The concept of buying more than you need, you often hear people say, don't buy more than you need. But in order to actually make a dramatic impact, you are encouraged to buy less actually than you need. And this is a way of living in a society and living behind the throwaway society that we are very used to. The government, corporate bodies, all have a pivotal role to play in this, okay? So quickly, the same thing with reduce, reuse. If you look at, I don't know how many, I think most of us must have read Chinua Achebe. When we talk about reducing the use of resources, it means decoupling economic growth and our activities from resource consumption intensity, as was being mentioned earlier on. It's not just natural resources. There are many things that we can reduce. We can reduce the food we eat. I mentioned Chinua Achebe. You remember that episode? He talked about two friends meeting until they deconstructed the mountain and reduced it to a molehill. They didn't know that they were together eating. So you can also reduce the amount of water that you use. It's quite interesting. You know, when you look at every house in Nigeria now seems to have a borehole. And what people don't understand is that with time, the more water you take from the aquifers will cause it subsidence. Buildings will be sinking, okay? You don't actually need big borehole when you can construct, if you have what we call recycled gray water and also tap water from rainwater, when you can actually harvest rainwater. And this is done in many parts of the world. And when you go to Nigeria, you find that, you know, people are still digging holes everywhere. Every house, almost every house now seems to have a borehole. Whereas if you have a concerted effort to actually harvest the rainwater in every community, you'll find that that would lead to a drastic reduction in the amount of water you use. And the same thing with recycling, just to touch on about few of them. And then you can also look at ways in which you can manage waste and reduce waste. So implementing 5 arrows in Nigerian context with regard to plastic requires some imagination and country or cultural specific policies. We would require command and control measures, okay, such as economic incentives and carrots. But you will require a very, very well matured economy with different layers of economic activity, economic structure to be able to implement, because you have to have a robust economic policies to be able to incentivize and disincentivize certain economic, activities. So government has a pivotal role to play here. For example, if you want to discourage the use of single-hulled plastic, in the case like Nigeria, you have to ensure that you implement policies that are specific to the culture of the people. If you were to say you increase the price, you increase the.
Please ask you sort of quickly. I don't know how you can summarize, because we have constraints with time, sir.
Just let me. The point I'm trying to make here is, if you want to implement policies, you have to tailor it. For example, I just use single-use plastic as an example. If you were to charge for plastic bags in Nigeria, it may not have the desired effect, because in Nigeria, everyone has always bought plastic bags. And this is why it was so successful in the West, when plastic bags usually were given out. So again, if I use Coca-Cola bottles, for example, this is not the first time we have been returning bottles. I mean, I grew up in a system whereby if you went to buy drinks in those days, they will never give you your change back unless you return the bottle. So if you were to drastically increase, say, for example, I don't know how much a bottle of Coke costs in Nigeria, you were to raise the price significantly, and then say, people, if you bring the plastic bottle back, you get your change back. So all these kind of incentives are tailor-made, and we encourage people to participate widely. Let me leave it there. I know the questions will come back again. I can contribute.
Yes, thank you, Prof. I'd like to, he wasn't here to introduce himself, so I'm gonna just say 1 or 2 words about him. He's a sustainability infrastructure expert, Dr. George Wangu. He's also very involved with the issues that have to do with the challenges of infrastructure and the impact that plastic has. So I'll ask you, Dr. George, how is plastic pollution affecting infrastructural development in Lagos, for example? And then obviously you can talk about Nigeria, because you're actually also knowledgeable on the subject globally. And what solutions can we put in place to solve it? The floor is yours, Doc.
Thank you very much, Henry. And sorry, I had the issues. I apologize. I had issues with dialing in. It's thankfully sorted now. First of all, let me say that the problem of plastic pollution is a serious one in Lagos State, and its correlation with infrastructure, because a lot of times you need infrastructure to deal with this problem. I'll give you an example. A lot of the plastic pollution that we experience in urban areas like Lagos caused by pure water plastic containers, or for lack of a better, sachets, for lack of a better word. And why do we have a lot of sachet water all over the place? It's simple, because we do not have adequate water, clean, portable water for people. And that creates a loophole where people then manufacture plastic sachet water. and when you finish, you dump the sachet water all over the place. So first of all, tackling the root cause of the problem. There's no water. Can we provide infrastructure to ensure that our people have clean water, potable water, available water? If we do that, we then reduce the use of sachet water, and we then reduce the pollution caused by sachet water through the use of sachet water. And so the necessary infrastructure, the required infrastructure to deal with water supply is what we need. So if we then say that government needs to invest in water supply or the infrastructure required to provide clean, portable, available water, then we'll be going in the right direction. We're treating the root cause of the problem. But again, the government of Lagos State will say, well, we have very limited resources. We have competing problems that we deal with. And this is where you then need policies to attract the private sector to come into the water sector to deal with that issue. So that is just one of the ways where we need infrastructure infrastructure can help deal with the problem.
Thank you for that. Can I just, we're going to talk about a bit more. I'm just trying to find time, but that's profound, and I'm excited about that point because we actually have government representation on our panels, and so it'd be nice to see the kind of exchanges we get and a response to this point that you made. But I'd like to ask Engineer Nubi the next question, and it's simply a question around what her take is on organizations and activists who are invested in bringing about sustainable solutions to the issues of plastic pollution. What are your thoughts and your position around this? Because you're quite involved across different sectors, and it'd be nice to hear your point of view. The floor is yours, Engineer. Engineer Nubi, did you get the question?
I think she dropped off. Maybe she's trying to join again.
Okay. Well, before she joins, I think we can save some time, and I'll just move to Mr. Oluyomi of UNIDO. And I'd like to ask him, it was exciting to hear Mr. Kayanja talk about the plans UNIDO is having with regards to amplifying advocacy and demystifying the subjects of environmental sustainability to the media, because the media are critical stakeholders, and if they can communicate these technical subjects in a language that resonates with our target audience, then it will make half of the problem, or it would help solve this issue, because again, we know that awareness is part of the challenge around this subject. So I'd like to ask, there's a big slogan around waste to wealth. There's a lot of talk about waste to wealth, and it's quite a popular one when we're talking about waste management and plastic pollution. Are there any opportunities with UNIDO for individuals, SMEs, or NGOs to truly experience this slogan in terms of that waste to wealth proposition?
Thank you very much. Yes, and let me just use 1 minute to give further background to what the UN.
You are so kind.
To give, no, I mean, not 1 minute to talk, but 1 minute to give further background to what the UN resident coordinator said, so that our viewers can understand why this is an issue we all need to work on. So Nigeria is a big country, and it is estimated that each Nigerian citizen will consume about 7.5 kilograms of plastics per day. By year 2021, we are already in 2021, and it's forecasted that Nigeria will be nation producing the largest mismanaged plastics waste in Africa by 2025, if drastic measures are not taken. Now, we also want to commend the Nigerian government for all the efforts they've put on board. From our own side at UNIDO, there are lots of opportunities for waste to wealth. And before I go into plastics, UNIDO is a leading driver of waste to wealth initiatives in countries, including Nigeria. And in Nigeria, we are presently implementing projects on biomass projects. For example, rice husk to energy, wood waste to energy. We also have plans on biofuels, that is waste to fuels. I'm presently working with the federal government and selected industries on determining the scope for this. So this is a very good opportunity for Nigeria to move closer to its energy demands and increase its share of clean energy in the energy mix. On plastics, the UNLC talked a lot about what we are doing. And what we have first done is to carry out an assessment, piloting Lagos and Abuja. And this assessment was to look at the value chain of plastics management. So we looked at from the manufacturers to the users, manufacturers of compounders, resins, users, the industries, the recyclers, the collectors, the sorters. We looked at the legal and regulatory framework. What are the laws governing plastics management in Nigeria? And the essence of this is for us to see the gaps and also come up with recommendations. This report will be reviewed and validated by stakeholders next month. So hopefully we will invite our stakeholders here to that validation workshop. We worked with a lot of stakeholders in carrying out this assessment, and we came up with some interesting results from this assessment, which we will share with stakeholders at the validation. But what we want to say from this is there are lots of opportunities in Nigeria. We also notice that plastics waste management is mostly controlled by the youth, the younger people. And also we notice that the informal sector cannot be pushed aside if you want to manage plastics. Creating wealth from plastics is not only about recycling. If it has to be maximized, you have to involve the whole of the value chain of plastics management, from the collectors to the sorters to the recyclers and to the industries themselves. We can see some of the industries are already going a step further, providing solutions to some of these problems. But we also see a lot of opportunities. We spoke extensively with the Recyclers Association of Nigeria, and many thanks to the president. And we can see some of the things they are doing, but there is a lot that can still be done. During our assessments, we asked stakeholders, the industries, the recyclers, for those that are willing to partner with UNIDO for project developments. Presently, we are developing a project, a full-size project, which we hope to look at plastics recycling in Nigeria. So maybe I'll stop here to give opportunity for more discussions. Yeah.
Exactly, but you've unpacked quite a bit, and it would be great to also look forward to seeing that report, which you say should be ready next month, because I believe that will set the tone for the next steps with regards to engagement with all the key stakeholders. I suspect that Engineer Nubi is back. So I will quickly ask that question, and then we will go to Mr. Daniel Adedoku if he's there. So Engineer Nubi, I was trying to ask the question around organizations and activism and what your perspective is with regards to plastic pollution, because there's quite a bit of it in the country.
We have a lot of organizations beginning to champion environmental causes. Being on the board of PAC, I actually opened my eyes to see that presently we have organizations willing to change the usual, their CSR, whereby everybody do not think environmental issues can be a source of CSR. So we now have companies investing and also tailoring their CSRs to environmental issues. For example, we now have companies also going into green financing sustainable projects, green projects, to ensure that whatever they are doing, it's that aspect, green aspect, to support recycling, support reuse, support even the recyclers, to ensure that the projects come alive. Also, we have collaborations with these companies. We are beginning to see companies collaborate with educational institutions. We're having companies collaborate with the University of Lagos, for example, for data, for information before decisions are made. I want to believe that for any good policy, for any good decision making, data is very important. So I'm beginning to see more organizations actually partnering with educational institutions to actually come up with great data before decisions or projects are being done, to actually have great visibility studies, to have good projects at the end of the day. We're also seeing rethinking. For me, well, we should begin to leave the linear model whereby we just extract, we make, and then we dispose. We're looking at companies beginning to look at circular economy, whereby we're trying to close the loop and also ensure that we're beginning to rethink our business models. In as much as we're encouraging SMEs, more businesses, entrepreneurs, we need to get to that point whereby people understand the effect of their product and their businesses, what the effect of all of those have on the environment. So I'm beginning to see opportunities whereby business models are changing. People are beginning to rethink their businesses to ensure that they actually eliminate waste. It's great to say we want to recycle, but it's greater for us to actually solve the problem from the source, whereby SMEs, businesses understand the effect of their product, their packaging, and then they can actually reduce, eliminate, and then of course, come up with better sustainable products that would actually not require so much of recycling and all of that. Also, I would also say that it's very important for us to also begin to change perceptions of people. As organizations, we need to be able to collaborate more with organizations, with conferences like what we're having today. PAC always try as much as possible to collaborate with organizations. Early last year, we had the Lagos Coastal Cleanup, whereby we had a lot of cleanup and then advocating for cleaner environment. So for me, I'm going to say it's very important for us to begin as businesses to rethink our business models all the way, and then try as much as possible to also carry along the SMEs, because the SMEs actually make a greater part of the GDP for Nigeria. So we need to ensure that these SMEs, businesses, understand what we're talking about. We need to be able to speak in their languages. Recently, if you go to supermarkets, you find various kind of plastic packaging everywhere. When I was growing up, I didn't know that we could have gari rice in nylon bags. But now, if you go to the supermarket, everything is in smaller packaging, and it's really a lot of menace, because everybody's an entrepreneur. Whether you're packaging, you're manufacturing, everybody's an entrepreneur, and so everybody's repackaging agricultural products. And, because they don't have the understanding of the effect of those products, everybody just, flood the market, the supermarket with nylon bags. So for me, I'm beginning to look at organizations stepping up with their CSR, not just for maybe a lot of people do CSR that has nothing to do with the environment. I want to see them partnering and doing more with waste management, more with advocacy when it comes to the environment, educating even smaller businesses, especially the SMEs, to ensure that we're all being sustainable and we're carrying all businesses along. Thank you.
Thank you. That was quite a bit, especially when you were speaking to the partnerships and the business models. But I'd like to announce to our audience who are listening that they have an opportunity to ask questions, and all they need to do is use our Slido platform. There's a code, #WST21. Put that code in and you can ask any question you want, because we have just under 20 minutes left for this panel, and we would like to get a few questions to interact with our panelists. But while I'm waiting for the questions to come in through our Slido platform, I'd like to repeat again that the code is #WST21. Put that code in and ask your questions so that we can also run the questions by our panelists to ensure that we have a robust conversation. I'd like to go back to Amaka from COPE and just to ask her to stretch a bit more on the things that she was trying to expatiate. She's had a lot of responses from the different panelists, and I wouldn't want to necessarily box her into where she wants to take the conversation to. But the bottom line is that we need to know and see that all the efforts that Coca-Cola is making is going to translate to dividends for the entire stakeholder community. So Amaka, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so I would just to dwell on some things that the data that has actually been read out here today. We fully have to understand that whatever we are doing, we need to accelerate our actions, because like Yomi had said, every individual is going to use an average of 7 kg of plastic waste. As much as we have seen that is a huge menace, but we have also seen it as a huge economic opportunity, especially for the youth population where we are seeing there are no jobs. A key learning is what we learned in 2020 on the heat of COVID, where a lot of the downstream sector lost their jobs. We launched a lot of programs that enabled economic livelihood of various people in various communities. Because this is something I tell people is this is the sector that you need the least amount of money to go into. The plastics are everywhere. For example, the plastic bottles under the Food and Beverage Recycling Association that I talked about, where we lead today, we have started recycling pouches, the pure water sachet that we talked about. PET bottles is the most recycled today. Yes, the value of those plastic waste is still very low because we have very few companies that are converting it into valuable materials. And that is an area that we are focusing our attention to ensure that by the end of this year, at least we have means that have fully set up to convert those materials into some other valuable uses. That is where we'll see more value, both to the informal sector. Like he talked about, a lot of waste pickers that are pretty much that are not formalized today. All our efforts are making sure that we put more value to them, so that at the end of the day, this is, imagine the job that will be created if every package or 80% of our packaging are being recycled today. It is a fantastic model that is purely going to empower communities, create jobs for our youth, and at the end of the day, we create better environment, we have better planet that we can leave behind. So for us as an organization, we are not only approaching it as a huge menace, we have seen a lot of economic opportunities in this sector. And if we can all come together to create the awareness, the education that is being talked about, create the right infrastructure by bringing recycling closer to people. It is not only plastic that needs to be recycled. A lot of clothing, e-waste, we talk about e-waste, even water that Prof mentioned about. We need to pay attention to all these areas. And then at the end of the day, we will leave better societies and build more sustainable communities. So it's
Thank
really
you.
what I want to put out there today.
Thank you, Amaka. I can tell you're ready to go on a bit more, but we'll keep the conversation in a very sort of interactive way to get other inputs. I'd like Mr. Daniel Adedokun, who's from Lafarge, to give us his perspective with regards to, I mean, Lafarge is one of the leading companies in the built environment. What is the amount of plastic entering the environment?
Yeah, thank you very much. Sorry for joining late. I was in a different meeting at the group level.
Well understood.
To us in Lafarge, because we are intensive energy company that we use a lot of fuel to run our cement kiln. So we have a technology we call co-processing, where we can co-process waste within the operation of cement industry. And with this, it helps in cleaning the environment. When you look at waste we talk about in society, what are they? I mean, we talk about plastics, you talk about paper, you talk about clothing. This definitely has an inherent energy in them. So the most important thing is, how are you able to collect this, prepare it in a form that you can use it in the process of energy within your operation. And the good thing is that for cement is not food. You know, cement is material that you don't consume. So which means you can put anything in it. And cement, you produce it through a very high temperature system. We talk about 1,450 degrees, the material temperature. And gas temperature is 2,000. So which means anything you talk about in waste, plastic or whatsoever, will definitely go there and get burned. And cement environment, those of us that do maybe chemistry, we know cement environment is like a scrubber. Is an alkaline nature. I mean, lime. It means any harmful gases is actually absorbed in this. And that's why Lafarge is at the forefront to say that we need to change the narratives in terms of energy. We need to start looking at waste as part and parcel of the energy within our system. If you look at Lafarge globally last year, we used over 48 million tons of waste within our business. I'm talking of Lafarge Global. In Nigeria, we use close to about 100,000, and we have the capacity we are developing in the next 2-3 years that will be able to consume almost 500,000 tons of waste. And if you look at cement industry in Nigeria growing, looking at this and putting in waste within the system, then it helps all the businesses, it will help our environment in cleaning, taking away the waste, tire and so on out of the society. But the legislation needs to be right. You know, the waste needs to be collected properly so that things can be done rightly and can be done cheaply.
Great. So I hear a policy conversation, and a policy conversation around not just policy for policy's sake, but the fact that we actually need to enforce some of the policies that already exist so that it creates the enabling environment for organizations like Lafarge to go ahead and do better to protect our environment. But I want to touch on a point you made with regards to the temperature while recycling is being addressed. And I want to speak to its impact on greenhouse gases. So is this taken into consideration, and what are the critical things that are done to ensure that as we're doing all of this, we're thinking very, very carefully about reducing the emissions?
Thank you very much. Actually, when you start using waste, you are reducing the emission, because the first thing you will do is that you are going to reduce on your fossil fuel. You know, if you go to landfill today, what do you see? Methane gas is being emitted everywhere because we dump this waste. And at the same time, as a company, I consume a lot of gas. So when I start replacing waste with gas, it means I'm reducing the consumption of fossil fuel that will generate CO2 naturally to waste. So instead of us continuously generating methane in landfill, and at the same time I'm using gas, generating a CO2, it means I cut the whole system to half. So globally, it means I'm reducing my CO2 emission. And that's why when you look at what cement industry is doing to reduce the CO2, we are all moving toward using waste. so that we reduce the fossil fuel use.
Great. I thought so, and I just wanted you to expatiate on that point. I would like to bring in Professor Eboho, who is also an expert in the built environment, to touch on some of the things he has heard in the exchanges that have gone on, so that we can then begin to look at a lot more questions that are coming in from the panelists. I have a couple that I'm going to send in immediately after Professor Eboho's response, but we have 5 minutes left for this panel. So, Prof,
yes, there's a lot of...
you can speak to...
Yeah, you hearing me? There's a lot of initiatives taking place.
In the best way, in terms of... The floor is yours, Prof.
Yeah, there's a lot of initiatives taking place within Can you hear me? Yeah, I said there's a lot of initiatives taking place within the built environment, particularly cement manufacturing. I think in one of our earlier webinars here, you heard the chairman of Lafarge talking about the production of sustainable cement. There are loads of substitutes now to clinker, which is the most energy intensive method of producing cement, and also which discharges significant amount of CO2, into the environmental media. What the last speaker talked about is almost like net zero carbon emission, whereby you drastically reduce your own CO2 emission because you produce so much CO2. But when you now use a lot of waste in generating your energy, so you create an equalization, sort of. There are initiatives taking place in that sector. Within the built environment itself, you can drastically reduce resource consumption if you mainstream sustainability at the early stage of the design process by as much as 60%. We are constructing net zero energy buildings. In Europe now, we have buildings that can passively ventilate and heat themselves. We have buildings now when you use daylighting, building orientations, and all these are all feeding through. But I just want to quickly mention about something someone said about sachet in Lagos. I went to Calabar. I don't know, I think the rest of the country has a lot to learn from Calabar. I went to Calabar on a mission, on British Council mission, I think about a year or two ago. Right from the airport, I saw this woman. I went into my pocket and gave her 5,000 naira, and she was shocked. Because there, if your food fall in the toilet, you can conveniently take it up. And on the street, I had to actually ask whether they sell pure water in Calabar, because you do not find litter the way you find in Lagos or Benin or other major cities, So there's a good practice there that we can all learn from. It just happens that somebody needs to go there and document what is it that they are doing that the rest of Nigerians are not doing.
Thank you, Prof. That's a separate conversation, because that's a case study approach that you're suggesting, which is something that we should consider. But I will take on a few questions that have come from the panel. Unfortunately, time is a constraint. So I will send in 2 or 3 questions, and I would like the panelists who feel comfortable to respond to these questions very quickly, because we're already having panelists from the second panel, in panel 2, where we're speaking about making Lagos clean again, coming in and getting ready for panel 2. So one question from Folabi from Lagos is saying, what are the modern ways of waste management in development clients? Another question is, what do you advise small businesses to use as alternative packaging? So we've been talking about packaging and refusing packaging. What do we advise small businesses to use? And I would like to direct this question to Engineer Nubi, because she was talking about food in packaging and all of that. And then, of course, the last question is considering the potency of package profitability and the ease for entrepreneurs. This is also something that the audience would like a response to. And of course, after these responses, I will be bringing on the publisher to talk us through the fire chat that we're going to go into before we take the next panel. So just to recap, and please, any of the panelists can speak to the questions. Just mention, just let us know you want to do that, and the floor will be yours. I'll repeat the question. What are the modern ways of waste management in development clients? Obviously, that's for us to learn. And then also, what do you advise small businesses to use as alternative packaging? The floor is, maybe I should actually let Engineer Nubi take this last question, and then we can then have the rest of the responses from other panelists. Engineer Nubi, the floor is yours.
Okay, I'll start by saying that other means of managing waste would be us trying to look into the use of technology, which is, we can start with the return deposit scheme, whereby people can begin to return their plastics to shops. For example, I'm buying something from ShopRite, I can actually return back. That's one way. Reverse vending. I'm looking forward to a time whereby we begin to have reverse vending in shops and big locations like hotels, whereby people can actually return their plastics. We can have community recycling programs, whereby we're having collection really close to the end users, the generators themselves. So for example, like what Lagos is trying to do now, Lagos is starting the... Okay, I didn't get that. Please.
Yeah, I would like, you've already mentioned 3, and I know you're on to the end of this panel, just because of things. So I would like to please say that some of the responses we will send online to those of us who have participated and to the listening audience. But at this point, I would like to bring back our publisher to take us on to the next phase, which is the fireside chat. The publisher, the floor is yours, sir.
Henry, thank you very much. Thank you so much. We've had a very interesting conversation, and there's absolutely no question about the competence of our panel. They have touched on the very key areas around this topic, whether you're looking at it from the point of view of the companies that are using plastics, or whether you are dealing with policy initiatives that are multi-dimensional and multilateral in nature. And of course, we had Professor Bahar bring in an intellectual perspective to weigh in the conversation. So let me once again thank our moderator and of course the panelists for a very exciting conversation. We all are in this together, whether we are shoppers who go to the shop with our plastic bags that we litter once we are done, whether we are companies that are producing the plastics themselves, or whether we are businesses that use plastics in their retail business, or whether we are government people, or indeed waste recyclers, as we have seen. We all are in this together. We all have our roles cut out for us. And as the media, we will continue to do the best that we can to highlight the issue and the challenge, but also to shed light on new and innovative ways of resolving the challenge that we have, or at least mitigating it somehow, so that we all can live in healthy or healthier environments. So once again, thank you. Now, I will, in the next 1 hour or so, be engaged with the Managing Director of Sterling Bank, Mr. Abubakar Suleiman, as well as Mr. Oshomakele Aruna, who's Managing Director of Tetra Pak West Africa. One is a bank that has shown significant interest in the issues that we're discussing today, that's the environmental issues. The other is a company that manufactures packaging products that also is working on innovative ways to do its business so that it can be more sustainable. Let me just confirm that I have Abubakar on the call, because my first question will be to you.
Thank you very much. I am here with you, and I was part of the last conversation.
Thank you, sir. Now, last year, Sterling Bank announced the donation of 5,000 kits to highway managers in Lagos. And your adoption of Llama dates back to over a decade. When we go around, we see Llama people wearing a vest with Sterling Bank written clearly as a benefactor of the work that they do. Now, tell me, how did this relationship evolve, and what's the future?
Thank you very much. Our relationship with Loma is truly a long-standing one. And people ask, how did it start? The truth is that after 12 years, you forget exactly how it started. But what we do remember very well was that we felt that while waste management was a significant challenge for us, there were very few corporates that were interested in being associated with managing waste. For some reason, it was almost seen as if you are helping with waste management, maybe your brand itself is not that premium. And we felt that was wrong. Our conviction was that we needed to put our support where it was most needed. Over those 12 years, we've actually donated tens of thousands of kits to them. And it's not just the overalls. We've actually given them kits that assist them in cleaning, in packaging, and all sort of ways of managing waste. So it is an extensive relationship. One of the things we tried to do from the beginning was to bring in other stakeholders, because we know that the challenge is not one that one person can scale. So for it to scale, you need to bring in both individuals and corporates. And so we've sort of invited a lot of other stakeholders and tried to collaborate. We're not just working with Loma. We are in over 20 states now. I think we're probably closer to 30 than 20 as I speak. Our objective is to make sure that in each of these states, we work with the local authorities to encourage participation, really, citizen participation. So it's not just about giving them the kits, it's about encouraging citizen participation. And our thought going forward, it's that we will be able to aggregate a significant number of corporates that are committed to this cause. And this is not just as a CSR. In some cases, it's actually an obligation, especially for the people that are primarily responsible for originating the harmful waste in the society. So if we can collaborate and bring them together, and collectively, we then begin to see impact.
Thank you very much. Keep your mind on that word impact, because I'm going to come back to that later, just to get a sense of how you measure impact and what your perception of that impact is today. And it's a great point you made. This is common, has been going on for many years, and at some point we forget how it started. But the great work you're doing, I will come back to the point about impact later. Let me go to our friend from Tetra Pak. Mr. Aruna, your business straddles manufacturing around the world, given how important you are in the value chain. Tetra Pak is a global firm, and you sit almost essentially in the food processing junction. And you've been doing this since 1951. So congratulations. You are now involved in a unique way of integrating cycling into your operations. And and that's as good as it should be. I mean, given the concerns that people ask, I mean, that the concerns that people are expressing. So I wanted to just ask you help us very briefly. You are doing business, which I'm sure is profitable. You are now doing that business innovatively, like killing two birds with one stone. How has that fared so far?
Thank you, Mr. Aibogun, one for organizing this seminar, you and the team. I think it's a great time to have this discussion, especially today being Earth Day. For some people that do not know, Tetra Pak is a leading food processing and packaging company in the world. Together with our suppliers and customers, we deliver food in a safe, innovative, and environmental friendly way to millions of people around the world, and we do that in about 190 billion packages. So for us, when we talk about waste, or in the larger sense, sustainability, that is not a CSR for us. That is our business strategy. That is key to how we do business. And like you rightly mentioned, we do it in a lot of innovative ways, because our brand promise speaks for itself. It says, protect what's good. And for us, it's about the food, it's about the people, it's about the planet that we live in today. So we've been doing a lot across the entire value chain since 1951, like you said. And most recently, we did commit that in our entire operations, we are going to have net zero green gas emissions by year 2025. And we even take a bolder step that in the entire value chain, which includes our suppliers and customers, we will ensure a net zero green gas emission by year 2030. Those are bold steps. Those are bold moves that you take when you believe in the environment and you believe in making it better even for the future. When you also look at, what else do we do currently? Every raw material we use when it comes to paperboard, we source them from renewable forest. And that is very important. We make sure that we don't just take from the earth, we actually return back as much as we do, or even much more in certain cases. And then, finally, among the many things we do currently on the global scale is renewable energy. If you look at all the factories that we use, we produce from in the world, we've improved our renewable energy from about 50%. Now we are 70% use of renewable energy in our factories. That's a significant gap in ensuring that you continue to maintain sustainability as a key driver in your business, and of course ensuring that you have clean cities for the environment and for the people to live in. Thank you.
Oh, sure. Thank you very much, and congratulations to Tetra Pak. We sure will come back. We will come back to you. For Mr. Suleiman, recently you signed on a singer, Olamide, who became ambassador for Sterling's Environmental and Makeover STEM. And he's probably better known through that initiative today. What was the message that you were trying to send your bank?
Okay, so it speaks to Olamide's clout that he's the one that is most remembered. Because prior to Olamide, we had had many efforts where we try to work with people who are easily recognizable to inspire people. The objective primarily is to inspire. So here is the problem. We observed a lot of the places that are badly managed in terms of the environment and how waste is being treated. And we realized, for instance, that places like Oshodi, Ojuelegba, those sort of places were the most affected. When we got into the market, we also realized that people did not, they mostly considered it beneath them to be responsible for the cleaning the gutter, packing the waste. So we went there as executives of bank with a lot of our partners, rolled up our sleeves, CEOs, executive directors, senior people, and started digging into the waste and cleaning ourselves in the hope that we will inspire. For a couple of years, that strategy worked. But we then realized that we can't limit our effort at convincing people to take waste management seriously to just the markets and the locations where we were. So we reached out and started using celebrity power. The first person we worked with was Funke Akindele, and that was also quite huge. But the year we took on Olamide, I think that was the biggest of all. And the thought process was a lot of young people out there that are connected to these artists, and therefore, if the artists are seen to be party to cleaning up and taking care of waste, this could change people's heart and mind about how they're related with waste. And so it was incredibly successful. We have seen what we call the Sterling Environmental Makeover, which is sort of a program that tries to show the before and after. You go to a place, you see how badly it is being kept and how waste is being managed, and come in, do the work, and then you have show to the world exactly what it looks like after you've done the work. And so we wanted to inspire people to continue to repeat this process. And Olamide was a big hit. He also, we worked with him to release a song which became the theme song for the STEM. And that was also a massive hit and sort of kept the idea of cleaning at the forefront for quite a long time.
Great, thank you. Don't forget, I said I was going to come back to impact. I will, of course, I hope that you will take my offer. Let me go back to Osho. Tetra Pak is doing a lot of work within its factory gate, promoting sustainability. And you yourself have alluded to the vastly improved proportion of renewable energy that you now use in your operations, moving to a high of 70%. You must be one of the biggest in terms of the proportion of renewable energy in its operations. So a lot you're doing, innovative way to make packaging to ensure that it's sustainable. But I wanted to ask you, how do you engage governments and civil society groups to advance this cause outside of your factory gate?
No, thank you. Very great question. Because when it comes to keeping the environment clean, it's not one person's responsibility. No one person can do it. And it's such a huge elephant. And in order for you to eat an elephant, you have to eat it one piece at a time. And one of the many ways we do that is partnering with our customers, partnering with our suppliers, and even like you mentioned with the government. And one of the ways we do that is by being part of the Food and Beverage Reliance Recycle Alliance, which is today we are the only carton producing company that is part of that in Nigeria. And together with the rest of the 12 or so members there, we discuss and we look at what are the right advocacy steps for us to implement in order to ensure we have cleaner cities for our environment. Because it is one thing to look at the laws and implement them, but the responsibility, or one of the big responsibilities, lies with corporate entities, like what Mr. Sulaiman and Sterling Bank are doing. That's great. We need a lot more of corporate citizens to engage in that way. How do you improve education? How do you improve awareness? How do you improve collection and sorting? Those are many ways, we corporate citizens can begin to improve while we wait for, the right government policies to be implemented. But there is a lot we can do already from today.
Osho, thank you very much. Let me go back to Abubakar. I know, for instance, that staff of Sterling Bank, and including directors, proudly go out to help, put action into this whole talk about, cleaning the environment. And we see your staff and your people sometimes on the street helping to do the work, to dirty their hands, as it were. What an interesting thing. Bankers, joining in environmental cleanup. A very rare scene, but we do see it, and I commend you. I'm aware of a report by Deloitte, a 2020 report by Deloitte Global. It's called the Global Millennial Survey, which pointed out that employees do examine the how do I say this, the participation of their prospective employers or their employers in joining in sustainability initiatives, and they take pride in it, or perhaps it's even a reason why they choose that company to work for. I'm aware, for instance, that Sterling Bank is perhaps one of the leaders or the leading banking institution supporting the acquisition of renewable energy in Nigeria. So how do your staff feel about the work that you do, that you have so eloquently spoken about, and how do your customers feel that that they see you as a reliable partner in the renewable energy journey that is now become global?
Thank you very much, Mr. Group. To be clear, I share the view that increasingly people are interested in the company beyond just profit, or beyond the career and getting paid. That's a fact. We've observed it across the board. When we started our journey, though, that wasn't how we were thinking. We were not thinking about this emerging generation that would start to hold us accountable. This emerged from a couple of individuals at senior level who felt it was the right thing to do. And to be clear, when there are many ideas that go, that comes and go in all the corporates that you see, if the employees don't buy into the idea, then it won't last for 12 years. What would happen is that there will be some flamboyancy and some launch, and people would make a lot of noise. And the moment whoever is pushing the idea looks away, which will happen if you're a busy person, the idea dies. What has happened is that our employees have come to own this concept of being connected to the environment. So beyond the cleaning, which is what you see, we, for instance, started a process where, because we were generating a lot of batteries from the filtered power that we use at ATMs, we decided to start exchanging our batteries for tree planting. And so for every battery that we consume, we ensure that in return, a certain number of trees was planted through a contract that we signed with partners, right? So the idea started to permeate, and there were different ways in which it shows up. Every year we publish a sustainability report in the bank that shows the progress we've recorded in various parts of our work. You talked about how renewable energy became something that we were aggressive about. It started as a business, but as I speak, more than half of our branches are running on either renewable energy or a hybrid power system that uses sustainable power. We are in the process of turning our entire head office building to be green, so that it is powered almost entirely by solar, right? So this is something that has become part of the culture, but it's also part of the strategy of the institution. And I think it's something we're quite proud of. We have now seen new people, younger people coming on board, and this is a huge part of what they care about, right? So I think that the institution has absorbed and imbibed some of this focus on the environment as a culture. And people who care about the environment are increasingly coming here. So over time, the people and the process will support each other to create what will be a sustainable culture of protecting the environment.
Thank you very much. My last question will focus on my promise that I made earlier. But for now, let me ask Mr. Shaw the last question. Tetra Pak signed an agreement with Onward Paper Mill. As you know, they are manufacturers and marketers of paper products. And this agreement is meant to use the expertise to collect and recycle beverage cartons. juice juice cartons in Nigeria. Tell us a bit about this partnership and whether it is indeed working already and delivering.
Thank you. That collaboration is one that we are really excited about. Before then, we started looking at how do we address the waste issue in Nigeria. So like I said earlier, you have the awareness and the education, then you have the collection, sorting, and then of course you have the recycling. Awareness and education in 2019, we did an awareness and education campaign to over 10,000 students in Lagos State. It was a huge success, and we were about to continue that before COVID came into place, and we still have plans to do that. So we're trying to catch them young, trying to teach the young people about the importance and relevance of recycling, of collection. And then of course you go to the point where we also have some partners that we work with today where we facilitate collection. We've improved collection of used beverage cartons now from 10 tons per month. Now we are doing 30 tons per month, which is, thrice of what we used to do. And that's a significant improvement when it comes to the collection. Going back to the agreement with Onward, as most people around the call will know, I mean, Onward is a foremost industry company in the paper producing industry. And for us, what we have partnered together with them is to be able to use fibers from used beverage cartons in order to work as raw materials in the production of their agri-boards. This is a fantastic collaboration because what it means is, they have access to raw materials that have always been waste. And this, of course, will help in their overall cost of production, which will be translated, and transferred to the consumers as well. And that is going to start. I mean, all the equipments have arrived in Lagos now. We're beginning to set them up, and by June, we should have that up and going. And it's something that, like I said, we're really proud of, and hopefully we should be able to share some of the good results in the very near future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shaw. Thank you. Let me now end with a question to our friend from Sterling Bank. What a great way to make money if you make that money sustainably. I know that under your leadership, there is this program that is dear to you called HEART, H-E-A-R-T, a strategy in which you invest in businesses or focus on businesses that are environmentally conscious. So you target health, education, agriculture, renewable energy, as well as transportation. So two questions here. First will be, and that will come at the end. Can you tell us some success stories involving these sectors? And then finally, how do you measure the success of your sustainability initiative? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So let me take the question about measuring impact and the success of the sustainability story. Very quickly, I'll go around the input side first. One of the things we've accomplished, because we introduced remote work about 3 years ahead of COVID. We actually have spoken about this extensively. Just a couple of months before COVID, we were toying with the idea of 4-day work week, and we had started in 4 locations. So by doing that, one of the things we've done was that we've reduced our energy consumption. When we then got into COVID, we saw over a 20-something% reduction in energy consumption. That then meant that we thought of going back to say, beyond COVID, what are the other reasons why we should continue with our remote work? We now have a situation where 20% of our workforce are working remotely and are likely to remain remote in the foreseeable future. About 58% are now doing variable work, which means that they have a hybrid, they work in the office some days and they work at home some days. And then we've got another 22% that are full-time in the office, right? So that's sort of the breakdown now. I say this because a lot of the waste that we generate because we run large offices, and it's become clear to us that that is no longer required. That's one way to go about measuring our input side. The other thing that we've then looked at in terms of measuring the input side is that we've now seen other financial institutions. Recently, a very significant financial institution has now joined us in providing kits for Lagos State. For us, we see that as one of the items we set for ourselves as a measurable, because we knew that we couldn't do this alone. Coming down to how the output side worked, we have a sustainability report every year where we look at all of the waste that we generate, and we've been actively winding them down over a period of time. So we have effective waste recycling protocol within the building, and on every floor we've got waste being categorized and being properly recycled. So the waste coming from Sterling Bank no longer goes into land dump, they go straight into recycling processes. We've obviously had our energy reduction plan. So we spend over about $1.5 million to change the cooling system in our building, because our building dates back to 1984 and the cooling system was highly ineffective and therefore consumed more fossil fuel. So we altered that. Now we are in the final stage of a project that is going to wrap the entire 17 floors of Sterling Bank in photovoltaic cells so that we generate energy from the facade. That combined with the energy generated from our parking lot would actually be just under 1 megawatt and enough to run our building, right? So these are the practical ways that the sustainability side, especially on the energy side, is being measured. But if we step away from that and go to the hard sector and exactly what are the success stories, within the hard sector, we have deployed well over 115 billion naira worth of funding to companies. And a huge part of this funding has gone into transport and agriculture, but we're now increasingly seeing more going into renewable energy, education, and health. And in some cases, this has gone in as grants for startups. You know, for instance, about 7 years ago, we gave a $100,000 grant to a team of small kids that had come back from Stanford. We're trying to help digitize the access to academic content. And their job was simply to go around Nigerian universities and digitize what we call handouts so that people can access all of those output from our professors. And it could also be in terms of facilities, like the significant facility that we gave to Primero to acquire vehicles. Recently, we have had a partnership where we funded Tremendoc, which is a telemedicine platform that in the year of COVID did about 60,000 medical consultations online. So you can imagine how critical this was at a time when people were afraid to go into hospitals when COVID was rampaging, and all you could just sit down in your house and access medical care. We're currently in a conversation with a partner called Helium Health, and the idea is to take EMR and put them in federal, states, and private hospitals across the country so that medical data becomes readily available. So we're very selective in how we partner. We pick on partners that can scale. We provide financing for them. We have also partnered with someone who is currently aggregating hospitals that are brownfield and upgrading them to world-class hospitals, and would probably become one of the largest hospital chains in West Africa within a couple of years, given the growth trajectory that we've seen. We've had a public announcement of our collaboration with Nexford, where we are now able to offer student loans for people to take a university degree. And the beauty of this is that it takes 3 years for them to get through the bachelor's, and those 3 years, they also get practical work experience working with Sterling. Now we are looking to expand that to other corporates. So for instance, somebody studying communications might want to work with Business Day in those 3 years as an intern, get paid a stipend while studying communication. The quality of the education is then immediately superior to someone who never stepped into a newsroom all their 4 or 5 years of education. We started by giving a scholarship to 50 students to cover their education for 3 years because we wanted to prove the quality of what we were doing. And in fact, if we reverse back a year and a half, we sent about 10 of our people to study with Nexford, and they came out with incredible experience. The quality of their education was so superior that we knew that this was the path to scale. Right. So right now, we're probably the only financial institution that can give a student the financing they need for a 3-year degree course to come out with a bachelor's. And this is a university that is registered out of Washington, D.C., and therefore has to meet the standard that has been set there, but at the same time is now being partially regulated by the NUC. So I think the stories are so many. Again, recently we did the Energize market, where we brought solar power into many of the high density markets, and now people are able to access power without all the generators that they would normally run, and they are built for power use. And finally, we are in a partnership to take solar power, rooftop solar power, to millions of homes, and we've digitized the process through a platform called Imperium, where an individual can go onto the platform, and once they profile themselves, they will then have technical people reach out to them, do the costing, and then they just pay as you use. So you don't even have to own the panels and the power asset. You can just pay for the power that you use. So what's the summary of it? We need to change the culture, and we do that with the Sterling Environmental Makeover. We need action, and so we did that with waste recycling and powering our own buildings for a start, and subsequently other people. But finally, we need to financialize the process of waste management so that there is a profit from managing waste. And that is why we have partnership with a lot of people doing waste recycling, and we're currently focusing our attention at the beaches in Lagos, because we felt that that's an area that's also been abandoned, where waste can be recycled.
Thank you so very much. I mean, terrific stories, very inspiring, and I hope that our audience will benefit significantly from this. We are out of time, so I'd like to thank the Managing Director of Sterling Bank, Mr. Abubakar Suleiman, and of course the Managing Director of Tetra Pak, Mr. Osho Aruna, for the great conversation. It is about waste, but you can see how transformative the initiatives that are tied around this waste management initiatives that are global, how they are turning around lives, turning around companies, increasing job, and creating sustainability for businesses as well. Please help me and join me in applauding Mr. Suleiman and Mr. Aruna. Thank you so much. And at this point, let me hand over to my colleague, Caleb, who will be moderating the next panel.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Publisher. It was just so refreshing to listen to Sterling Bank and Tetra Pak, but more maybe because I have a soft spot for Sterling Bank. I sort of have the memories of the brand and the exciting things that it's constantly doing.
We all have soft spots for where the money comes from. No problem.
So that's great. So what I was going to say is that we're now sort of moving into the next panel, and the next panel is themed around making Lagos clean again. And just looking at that theme, it took me back to the days of environmental sanitation. I remember many years ago in Lagos, Saturdays were days where they were cleaning, and all of that sort of had an impact on the city itself. And just listening to Professor Eboho on the other panel much earlier talk about Calabar and how clean Calabar was. I mean, the thrust of this conversation is really going to be about how we can make Lagos clean again. And on the panel, I have again Coca-Cola, Amaka, who was speaking on the first panel. She's introduced herself, so I wouldn't have her do that again. But we also then have some more interesting representation, because Sterling Bank is also here in the person of the Chief Marketing Officer, Mr. Martins. And then, of course, we have government. We have the Ministry of Environment, and we have LOMA, who are critical aspects in the stakeholder community of making Lagos clean again. So I will have the other panelists introduce themselves, since Amaka had done that earlier, starting with Mr. Dapo Martins. I hope he's on the call. is Dapo here? I can't see him, but maybe before he comes on, Dapo, are you here? Okay, so I'll just go to Mrs. Odeneye to introduce herself, and then we'll wait for Dapo to come on. So Mrs. Odeneye, the floor is yours, and after you, we'll have the MD of Loma introduce himself, and then we'll go into the conversation.
Thank you. It's a bright afternoon now. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy World Earth Day. And my message is that we're supposed to be fruitful, to multiply and replenish the earth, to subdue it, to tend it and keep it. So the topic is apt, basically cleaning Lagos. I'm the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of the Environment, Office of Environmental Services. I'm a health, safety, and environment expert. And this job I've been doing for 34 years. I'm glad that on this beat, share what we've been doing and how to make Lagos cleaner again. Thank you.
Thank you. Can the MD of Loma, Mr. Ibrahim Odubani, can you please introduce yourself, and then we can go into the conversations, hoping that Dapo will join soon.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ibrahim Odubani. I'm the Managing Director for Lagos Waste Management Authority. We saddle with the responsibility of solid waste management across the states. And it's quite exciting to be here today to speak to other stakeholders. I've listened well to all the other discussions, and I'm quite happy for us to talk very much about Lagos State, which is what Loma does best. So once again, thank you for having all the stakeholders here. Thanks to my peers for supporting us on this as well. And I know we have Fibra, Coca-Cola, Sterling Bank, all the known faces in waste management are here today. So I look forward to us having a very good conversation around it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So without much ado, I will check in again if Dapo is on the call. If not, we will start, and then whenever he comes on, he will join us from when he comes on board. So I'd like to start with Amaka, and just thinking about Lagos and making Lagos clean again. It's quite an interesting challenge to take this on. And so I'd like to ask what Coca-Cola as a company is doing to engage the entire stakeholder segments towards making Lagos clean again. Like we listened to the earlier panel and some of the conversations in the fireside chat, we are very clear that the conversations around waste management have to involve the entire community and the entire value chain. So what is COPE doing with regards to ensuring that the entire stakeholder value chain is engaged to result in a cleaner Lagos? The floor is yours, Amaka.
Okay, thank you so much. In fact, I'm glad to be here back again. For us at Coca-Cola, so you all recall, while we're growing up, we all realized that we had our beverages delivered to us at the glass. As far back as 2005, when the evolution of convenience packaging came up and one-way pack, where consumers are demanding to have more convenient packaging, and we launched the PET bottles that are all of us know as plastic today. So we started thinking ahead of the curve, even before the plastic became a big issue worldwide. And that was how a textile company in Nigeria, Alchem, Nigeria Limited, Coca-Cola, along with our bottling partner, Nigerian Bottling Company, had partnered with the foremost recycling company here in Lagos. That is the Alchem, which was formerly into textile production, to set up a total of 24 collection centers was set up at that time, where this plastic packaging was being recycled into what we call yarn, that are used to produce all forms of textile. And we are very proud that that investment is still serving Lagos State today. It is not enough, but it has actually led to tremendous decrease of the plastic, especially PET collection and recycling that we see here in Lagos today. But then as from 2005 to 2012, that partnership existed. The plant, of course, is still active and collecting and recycling plastic waste in Lagos today. But we realized that it is not enough because Lagos was increasing in terms of the urbanization was rapidly growing. We saw a lot of new entrants that today only offers plastic packaging as a packaging material. That means that enormous amount of plastic waste is now being introduced into the environment. So what we did was we then started championing a collaboration between ourselves and like companies so that we can solve those plastic waste challenge together. And that led to the evolution of the Food and Beverage Recycling Alliance, which ourselves, our bottling partner, Nigerian Bottling Company, Nestle, Nigerian Brewers, and 7-Up came together to collaborate, to set up that producer responsibility organization so that we can all be responsible to what happens to our packaging materials till the end of its life cycle. We are proud that today it has evolved to 17 member companies. It is enough, no, but then at least we have been able to together support both the collectors, the informal sector, the aggregators, to be able to set up some collection centers in various communities. But again, there is an absence of the food grade, so what we call, until we close the loop. So normally when you talk about closing the loop, you would have been able to produce packaging materials that actually leads to other, either you produce another bottle to bottle, so that you can see significant number of plastic waste leave Lagos as it were, because of course Lagos is still a mega city. A lot of consumption is happening in Lagos. And that led to the formation of the foremost recycled standard in Nigeria that allows us to produce food grade materials. Last year, we all saw the announcement where IFC has funded NGPET to set up a bottle-to-bottle recycling facility in Nigeria. And this recycling facility would have, we take up a total of the output capacity is 30,000 metric tons, meaning that its input capacity would be up to 45,000 metric tons. And this means that significant amount of plastic will leave our environment. And that is why today, all hands are on deck, working with both governments, working with the Recyclers Association of Nigeria, our fellow peer companies in Food and Beverage Alliance, so that we can all set up real aggregation centers that will be able to provide clean and quality feedstock to these facilities. And this means that, hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, this means that Loma has been a tremendous support. I know that the MD will talk about the app that they have developed, where a platform where all recyclers in Lagos are actually imputing the amount of waste they are collecting on a daily basis. We are championing the adoption of this app because we recognize that by the time these are fully set up, we will be able to have this significant amount of plastic waste leave Lagos, and at the end of the day, we would all we'll be proud of the cleaner cities that we'll create. Again, I just wanted to also put there that it is a collective responsibility. I'm really very happy listening to other panelists and what has been discussed here, because it all starts with us. How many of us in this platform today or listening are actually separating our waste? Because we have enormous amount of collectors coming up. We need to actually separate our waste so that together we can all build this cleaner and sustainable Lagos that we like to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Amaka. Just as you mentioned Loma, I will take it to Loma and just really ask the MD to tell us what strategies he has in place to overcome the waste management issue. When we walk on the streets of Lagos, we still see litter, and predominantly plastic litter. We know that there's been collections. In fact, the issue around waste collection has been quite a contentious one. I remember the previous government having issues around the same subject. So it is a humongous task, and it's nice to hear from the Emir of Loma himself how he really has plans to overcome this humongous task. Like Amaka said, it can't be one-sided. It's not one person, but at least being that you're a strategic stakeholder leading the conversation, we look forward to hearing from you in terms of how we will overcome this challenge. Over to you.
All right, so good afternoon once again, everyone. Just to give you an idea of, I'll try and break it down to describing what exactly, where we are at the moment, what our challenges, and what our future strategies and plans to ensure a consistently cleaner Lagos is achieved. So first and foremost, we have Lagos, a center of excellence, a place of prosperity, with a large number of people from different ethnic backgrounds across Nigeria and Africa residing there. We have a population of 25 million plus, and with Lagos, there's a solid waste daily generated amount of 14,000 metric tons per day. And we average that on our research, it averages that each individual in Lagos generates between 0.5 to 0.69 kg per person. And with that, we have various stakeholders supporting us. So at the moment, we have about 837 PSPs in comparison, 437 PSP in comparison to the 350 we have pre-VisionScape. We also have 47 recyclers supporting us in doing this, and a workforce of formal and informal of about 30,000. So overall in Lagos, you can see that waste management is one of the strong sector which keeps everything together. And I know it's been through a lot. So we had a policy somersault at a point, sometimes over the last couple of years, but the new administration have been able to pull it together, and we are beginning to see a lot of progress being made. So one of the good progress we can see, which is visible for us, is we can see that Lagos is a lot more cleaner than it used to be. I could remember back in 2019, there was a survey ranked Lagos as one of the dirtiest states in Nigeria. But thankfully last year, November, this same research institute were able to rank Lagos third. And I can confidently tell us that we are well on course to be able to achieve being back to the first that we used to be way back 2011, 2012, or 2014. So we are well on course to do that. But that does not mean that we don't have a lot of challenges in terms of what needs to be achieved and how we can move forward. When it comes to waste management, you need to pay a very strong attention to the key factors. It's divided into three: the generation of waste, collection, and disposal. So for us, in each of those three stages, we have started to intercept and have a sustainable way of approaching it. We are busy, Loma is now more proactive than reactive, so as the state government. The mandate being given to us by our governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, is to ensure that whatever we do, we need to ensure so that sustainability plan is attached to it. So in terms of generation, I know household, we launched the Blue Box scheme in September 2019. That's now evolved to Lagos Recycle. We partner with Fibra, Coca-Cola, and every other stakeholder in that sector, and the 47 recyclers we have. But in reality, we had identified that a lot still needs to be done in terms of education and awareness. And that's why today, last week, we had a collaboration with Lagos State Suburb to ensure that all our primary school, by the time they return back to school from next week, they will start having waste management in their curriculum for minimum of half hour a week. And that will help us address some of the key issues that we face now, like indiscriminate dumping of refuse, lack of separation, low education on recycling, and things and other ways of managing our waste. If we can actually train and teach the younger ones how to do it, we believe they will be strong advocates for us and change agents to bring a more sustainable agent and sustainable waste management to Lagos. In doing this as well, there are a couple of other challenges we know. For example, we have over 2 million households in Lagos, that only 15% of them have a waste bin. Those are things that we're looking at as well. And I'm glad to say that over the next couple of weeks, we will be launching our Adopt a Bin program, where people can actually procure a bin at their own, based on their own cost of living or based on their own plan. So we'll be able to, if every household in Lagos have a bin, all the indiscriminate dumping that we see on the streets and co will be less minimized. Also, we've gone through a stage whereby we reformed our PSP structure. We knew when the vision scheme was around, during the policy for some assaults, they were all told to go. And what that does is it creates a very big vacuum in waste management. From 10,000 metric tons generated daily at that point in time, 2,000 were alone were the ones catered for by the private vendor, which then leave 8,000 accumulated daily across the state. So that will give you an answer to the accumulation of waste that you continue to see. But we're working assiduously with the state government and Ministry of Environment to ensure that all those backlog of waste are addressed as well. But I'm glad to tell you that at this point in time, in Loma, we make a minimum of 850 trips to dump site on a daily basis. And that equates to plus 11,000 metric ton on a daily basis that we are cutting away from our streets. There are still loads of improvements to make. Also, on marine waste, I know Sterling Bank, you launched a foundation to help us address issue of shoreline waste, plastic bottles on our shoreline. I want to commend you for that. There's a lot of things that we need to do, but we believe if we can intercept and manage our waste properly on inlands, we will have a lower shoreline collection. At the moment, we collect nothing less than 15 compactor loads of plastic waste in our shoreline across the states. And that's something that is very worrying for me. When that number starts getting lower, then we know we're making progress across inland, because it gives you a very practical and simple way to explain what the process entails.
Thank you. I mean, I know that you're ready to go on and on, because when there's a huge challenge, obviously, there's a lot that goes into solving those challenges. But you have demonstrated and shown us from all the data that you have shared that there's a commitment to really overhaul this issue. I hear everything you said, and I will come back to you with a question around capacity and ability to move from the 850 trips you're doing a day to increase that, because clearly there's a need. But I'll go straight to the Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Odeneye, and I will ask her, you know, with regards to the ministry's responsibility over the cleaning agencies that you oversee. Can you share the strategic vision that the ministry has from a big picture perspective? So do you think that we'll see a cleaner Lagos anytime soon, Mrs. Odeneye?
Thank you once again. Good afternoon. I believe so much that a cleaner Lagos is a must. And with our cliche here, with the themes agenda, which says, Ajumoshe, that is together, we'll do it. If we want Lagos to be clean, we'll have to make it clean. So on the bigger picture, I've heard what has been said, and what we're doing, the Ministry of the Environment as we speak, we have enlarged the coast of the way we used to work. Now we have a unit for environmental education. I actually have the book here. We've launched the book called, this is a manual, environmental manual. We have a club, and this is for all the schools to understand the issues of environment, from climate change to waste management and everything that a child needs to know. We've gone to various schools to launch it. We have a climate change and environmental policy department. We also have, sorry, I'm moving to a comfortable position. We have the Department of Sanitation, who goes to the highways to make sure that the highways are monitored, and then we tell who is supposed to do what. We find out that there are so many issues on it, and we know that we need to have a mindset change. So we have what we call public affairs department, where we go out there to talk to people and change their mindsets in different forms, using song, drama, the media to do that. We also do right now as I speak, some people are commissioning a recycling bank in the estates. We have citizens who are rising up to the occasion now, and they are telling us, oh, they want ABC, they have space for this and that, come and help us. And I know that all of us in the last 1 week, we've seen 3 videos that went viral. One was the plastic bottles in the waterway that became a floating restaurant. The other one was plastic that was being used to build a house in Kano. The third one was the plastics that are being used in other things. Even as I speak, there are wall gardens in different homes that are turning plastic waste into planters, and they are planting herbs and mints and all whatnot into it, so that waste is turning to art and they are not going into the drains. And in the Ministry of Water, Environment and Water Resources, we have the Office of Drainage. They've been empowered to clear the drains so that it can move quickly. And we found out that even in the drains, we have more of plastics. And so we're working with the likes of what Amaka had just said, Fibra, Coke, and all that, coming up with ideas. But I must say that in the longer term, we're looking at even 10 hours, more than 3 hours. We need ethical responsibility. We need people to be liable for the waste that they are generating, and then take charge from their homes. And then when they take charge and they do source separating, then the right waste will go to the right places. And waste is not waste, it is a resource. So we understand the circularity, but we need that mindset change. The third video I was going to talk about was the video where the plastics were turned into t-shirts. And we started asking people, they say, oh, I cannot wear a t-shirt that is made of plastic. But that mindset change will tell us that most things in Nigeria, when they take it out of Nigeria and bring it back as a finished product, we would love it. But when we see it being moved, so with the banks on this platform, we'll need various opportunities for those who are ready to do business with waste, that they should help them. Someone wants to turn waste to t-shirts, but they said the mode of doing it and the cost of it is really high, it's capital intensive. So these are areas. We've had people, over 57 outfits that have come to us that they want to turn waste to energy. Everybody wants solutions. But as soon as you tell them to go ahead, there are no funds. They want our letters and our land, and then they will run to the banks. And so that's why it looks like they're going 2 steps forward and 10 steps backward, because most people would not have taught the business the feasibility of it and how it can take us to the next level. So for here in the ministry, where even this week, we're going to start the cleanest local government. We're encouraging private organizations like Sweep Foundation. They've been blessed by some foundations to help in picking these plastic bottles. But the overall part of it is being responsible, changing all these waste into raw materials and empowering people. And like Coca-Cola said, the price on waste policy, where plastic waste is so low. So in our waste policy, the policy on plastic waste management, which is out soon, is already at the school level. We're going to make sure that adequate funding and funds that for the pickers to make it attractive, so that it's not like now we don't see cans and iron in the gutters, because it has value and they have people taking it off from them and turning it into roofing sheets and building materials. So such are the things that we're planning in the ministry. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You've touched on a number of things, but we kept hampering on mindset shifts. And mindset shifts can only happen if people understand what is in it for them. whether it is a reward that will come for them or whether they will recognize that they're leaving the planet better for future generations. And so I think that there's a gap that needs to be addressed around the advocacy and the campaigns that sort of help people appreciate why they need to take this stance. I will come back with questions in this area, but at this point, I will check again if there's any representation from Sterling Bank, because I have a question for them on this panel. So is there anyone representing Sterling Bank here? If there isn't, then I will come back to Amaka just for her to speak to the things that the Loma MD has spoken to and the permanent secretary spoke to. So there's something you mentioned, Amaka, which I really wanted to hear, but I don't think the MD of Loma got to the point where he was going to unpack it. You talked about an app, and we know that technology plays a critical role in helping address issues that have, a mass market reach. So this challenge with waste pollution is a mass market conversation. It reaches and touches so many lives. So when you talked about the app, can you elaborate a bit more on what this app does and how it solves this problem, or how it is planning to solve the problem? Amaka, the floor is yours.
Okay, so I totally agree that we need technology to support in terms of the way people schedule, for example, pickup activities. I know that the app has been adopted by Lagos State under the Lagos iRecycle. It's still at the very beginning and stage, though I'm aware that a total of around 36 collectors or aggregators has been onboarded onto the app. So the way it works, actually, the app is known as MACAM. It's an initiative of Lagos State, by the way. So the idea is that it will help connect people who are recycling and want to drop off their waste. You book. When you download the app, you're able to book to say, I am in Lekki location, for example. It gives you an idea of how many recyclers or collectors are in that vicinity, and they are able to have visibility to say, somebody in number 16 Gerard Road have 30 bags of plastic bottles, paper, 1 bag of paper to be collected. And then within the course of their route plan, it helps them to actually understand how many in that location, and they are able to schedule, to knock on your door and to say, I'm here to pick up your waste. If it's being weighed, that collector takes it away. And of course, whatever incentive that is accrued to you, based on the kg of recyclable materials you have dropped off with them. And then it has also a capability to link you to an account where you get paid, or you have a wallet where you store up your points, and you can either redeem it based on whatever has been established. So we see this as a huge opportunity. If it's well adopted, it's going to close the gap of people who really want to recycle, but they are not able to find out where are the locations of the collectors, how do I even go about it? So that is actually an aspect that we believe that if this is actually very successful, other states are also looking at attracting similar models so that they are able to scale. But again, I must also say that infrastructure's deficit remains a huge opportunity. And I really hope that the banks are going to be here, because I know that when we started the Food and Beverage Recycling Association, part of what we also did was that we actually looked for an environmental sustainability bank, and Sterling Bank actually stood top on it. And that was where the FIBRA account today was actually domiciled at Sterling Bank, because we saw them as an environmental sustainability bank. How we can also make sure that either in terms of single digit, how can they also provide finances to these small collectors to be able to scale their businesses, because some of them are in need of one kind of funding or the other, to be able to provide maybe logistic support to be able to meet up with the scheduling or pickup of the recyclable materials that people who have now decided to recycle have come up with.
Thank you very much for explaining that. It shows there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. At this point, I will switch back to the MD of Loma, but I want to switch things up a bit more. And I would like you to speak to the literal, what you would call the low-hanging fruits in this conversation, because it still sounds quite like a humongous task. But what would you see as the low-hanging fruits? What kind of timelines are we looking at? What kind of change do we expect to see towards a cleaner Lagos?
Hello. Going back to your question, I think when it comes to low-hanging fruits, in terms of recycling, just like Amaka mentioned earlier, we need more corporate collaboration and support. It's a big problem that everybody needs to join and to support to get completed. It's not only FIBRA, not only Coca-Cola. Banks have to get involved. I know we have banks like Heritage Bank that have adopted our recycling as their CSR for the year, and they are doing their best as well. And thanks to Sterling for what they've done in the past and what they could do. I know we can all do more. But not just only banks, it's everyone that has to play their own role. It's very important that we deal with this together. So we need capacity building for all this recycling. And also the idea that the producer paid policy needs to come in place. In every economy around the world, when it comes to plastic pollution and pollution generally, is a polluter paid theory. So no matter what we say anywhere, everybody has to take responsibility, but a polluter must take responsibility. And I know that the federal government's plastic policy says that, and I know that is what the Lagos State one will be driving towards as well. But when that comes in place, then automatically, when producer pays their attention to what they need to do, and the resident does their own part, everything will be good. So in terms of recycling, we need more collaboration, more support, more education and awareness in any form that anyone can provide. In terms of keeping Lagos consistently clean, Lagos is cleaner. I think we just need, one thing we need to realize is dynamic. It's a dynamic city. The challenges of waste management is not set in paper. There's no one size fits all. We have to continue to evolve. Like Loma we're not reactive now, we are more proactive. And we plan ahead. We're already looking at our 2030 vision as well, and making sure we are driving towards a sustainable way of managing disposal, moving away from open dumping and landfill to sanitary landfill and waste to energy. And like the PS mentioned earlier, we have a lot of proponents that will come, they come with all these unicorn ideas, but when the time comes to actually do something, they never turn up. But sometimes you look at it, majority of these companies are looking at borrowing money from outside Nigeria. I think it's about time Nigerian banks or the Bank of Industry or the federal government look at it as a whole and see what can we do under the environmental package that can help things like this happen. If all the proponents keep relying on international banks, foreign exchange risk, capital risk, a lot of things will put them away last minute. So we have a lot of help that we need from that economic sector to be able to kickstart the revolutionary change that we need in waste management as a whole. But most importantly, like I said earlier, we need to change people's mindsets. We need to continue to educate. And that is the reason why we are focusing on primary school kids. When you're an adult, when you're over 18, you're almost set in your ways. You've already developed your mindset, and what you have left is survival. Survival until the end. So that's why we're picking the primary school, then we move to secondary school. And what they will do is they will help us change the mindset. We can do advocacy, awareness, publicity, and go. All these things have been done before. We are not reinventing the wheel, it's already there. So let's try something different. And that's why we're trying a sustainable approach. We established Loma Academy to be able to educate anyone about waste management. Myself, I was not a waste manager. 2 years ago, if you tell me I'll be doing this job, I would tell you no, I don't understand that. But now I'm here, I've learned a lot, through support from everyone. I've zapped some knowledge from Amaka, the PS trains me every day. So all these things come together. It shows you when it comes to waste management, everyone can do it. But it is more important that we have a structured way of approaching. I think a low-hanging fruit for us here is more around education, education, and education. That's the only thing that can stop.
Great. At that point, I will like to then swing in and bring someone unexpectedly who I can see on the call, but just because you are flogging that education, 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 he's one of the few professors of environmental law and sustainability. Professor Ebonho, he was sitting on the panel, on the first panel, but I see he's still on this call, and I'd like to bring him in and to say to Prof, you just heard the MD of Loma say education, education, education. Do you want to speak to it and just bring a perspective that will turn on the lights for us around this conversation?
Absolutely. In fact, I've actually sent him a personal note. When I heard him say that he's brought in primary school children, the United Kingdom government struggled with this initially when they were trying to bring elderly people into environmental consciousness or arouse the environmental consciousness. You go on the street, you go to the supermarket, you see children crying because their mother dropped litter. You know, they go to school, they report their parents to their teachers, say, oh, at home yesterday, my mommy dropped this litter, and so on and so forth. It became very, very useful and very powerful. We've seen children reporting their parents to police when they drop a banana through the window as they are driving without them knowing. So parents now became, you know, very, very conscious. But at the university, every institution in the UK, they have environmental a plan, and they are woven into all the curriculum and so on and so forth. For example, in my university, that's one of my major responsibilities, to mainstream environmental policies, strategies, and principles to all that we deliver. There is no going back on that. Education is fundamental. But what is education? Education is not just what you see in four walls of formal education. There are informal education as well, where you recruit market women, you look for the leaders, because what we are talking about here is introducing a change. When you are introducing a change, especially that to change people's culture, you're not going to have everybody come on board. The strategy is to look for those that are determined and willing to come in, and those are the ones that you work to change the minds of the general public and the population. One other thing I just want to quickly say, it will be a surprise to you. There's something that I'm taking away from this discussion today to corporate UK. It is quite astonishing. The effort listening to Amaka and others, the astonishing effort these days putting in without government, you know, incentives. In the diversities, you see before they can even raise anything, you know, you see government grant, you know, here and there, government pushes everything, you know, contrary to what you mostly hear in the developing countries, that the private sector. This is an eye-opener for me, and I'm really grateful that I have something to also take back, you know. So awesome. Education is fundamental. Thank you.
I mean, it's really a very exciting and rich conversation, just because when I look back and I look at the things that we've tried to do, even as Green Hub Africa, from the advocacy perspective, it's been really a truth that collaboration is the bottom line. I mean, I also recall last World Environment Day, where we had Lafarge coming on board. The conversation was very, very clear. How do we get people to understand that there is value in separating waste, for example? And it threw up a lot of other interesting things. But because we do not want these sessions to be just talk shops, I remember at the very onset, when the publisher was speaking, he said there's an urgency. And that urgency is now, because if we then begin to think very, very critically about what the immediate next steps would be, I would at this point like to begin to ask for the parting points from the different panelists. Starting with Amaka, what would your parting words be? And then we'll go to Mr. Deneye and then the MD of Loma, and then I will sort of wrap up. And of course, if the publisher wants to say any few words before the MD gives us the final closing, and the floor is there. So I would like to start with Amaka. What are your parting words as we wind down?
Okay, so I will start from the corporate perspective. So for us, so if we all recall, the Sprite iconic bottle made a huge step change earlier last year, late last year, to move from a green bottle to a clear bottle. That is our own way of working on our design to be able to create more sustainable packaging. And that is really the way we are encouraging. We lead. We've decided to lead by example so that we can inspire the corporate sector, like the beverage packaging sector, so that we can create better bottles that have more value and be able to drive more value to the average recycler that is out there. So this is part of our commitments, and I really call on everybody, because today we get a lot of feedback in terms of, oh, we have a lot of brown bottles in the environment. Sometimes this black packaging, there's a reason why they're, for example, for light sensitive products, that is why some are designed that way. But as we plan to launch or whatever sector you want to go in, think about the impact it will have on the environment. If you are able to create better bottles, please work on it and be able to create bottles that are environmental friendly. And then, of course, we talk about the private sector. I know MD had talked about the polluter pays principle in Nigeria since 2012. We've been driving EPR. We work with the Ministry of Environment. We come up with the first EPR policy. We are hugely involved with the national policy on plastic waste management. What we have actually seen is that today we are only 16 companies that are actually driving and helping to be able to drive the packaging problem that Nigeria is facing today. And we have over 500 companies in the beverage sector. So we really need the support of the government to actually, there are policies that are in place. They are not being enforced. How can we get more people? As we also encourage people to be more corporate citizens, let us be more corporate, let us drive participation so that together we can actually help either bridge the infrastructure deficit or have more hands on deck to be able to solve this plastic waste challenge that we are talking about. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. I would like the PS to go next. Parting words, please.
Thank you very much. I would say that Lagos is doing its best. We're blazing the trail. The basic thing that we've done lately on the 4th of February 2020 was to deliver what we call a Lagos resilience strategy, knowing that we have burgeoning situation, and the 3 pillars are to have an efficient city, an inclusive city, and a clean city. So, and that's really what we're working on the themes agenda. The health and environment pillar of it is talking about health relating to the environment. And so cleanliness is the key part of it, SDG Goal 6. And I believe in individual ethical responsibility as well. While we're waiting on government to give the basic infrastructure, the mindset change I talked about means that we should change the way we do things. I love what Prof said about buying less than you need. And I want to add that cook less than you need, source separate, change your habits. And then we also need the private sector to help these people who are ready to work in terms of, and the banks as well, those who are ready to pick plastics, and then they need funds and all that. So we've had people say, oh, they want to buy a reverse vending machine and bring it to Nigeria, but funds are the issue. We've had people say, oh, we want to turn all this waste into energy, and we want the energy to be off-taken. Who is the off-taker? So those are the various ways that we think that we can, move the city to be cleaner by individually participating, everybody doing his bit. And to top it all, I love the UK example that was given, but they pay tax. They pay close to 50% of their tax upfront. So the government is able to do so much, but in a state you have people avoiding tax so well. and there isn't much to do so much, and there's a lot to do because of the population. We need to also pay our taxes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Odene. Knowing that you have a UK background and pedigree, I knew you were going to rub that in, but it's fine. We will get there eventually. So at this point, I think the MD of Loma will give us his parting words, and then I will hand over to the MD of Business Day for the final words, and then we will call it a day.
All right. Thank you very much for giving all the speakers the opportunity to talk about this very good topic today. And I really appreciate everyone's contribution in ensuring that Lagos is consistently clean. My parting word is quite short, is together we can keep Lagos clean. Like it says in Lagos slogan, so all of us have to come together to achieve the best for ourselves. I appreciate everyone here, from the PS down to Prof, down to Fibra, and everyone that have contributed. And those that have today's conversation will change their beliefs, and then I will make them do something about it. So we really appreciate everybody, and thanks to this day for bringing us all of us together. And I hope by the time we come together and talk about something like this, we'll be there for us to just share successes that we've done at the back of this. But I want to encourage conversations like this to continue to grow. But now let's look at what are the actions and what are the successes we've achieved from this initial conversation. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you. Thank you. The only thing that I need from you is just for you to slightly tweak what you said and say thanks to Business Day. Business Day.
Oh, sorry. Business Day. All right, sorry. Thank you very much, the Business Day, the editors, and everyone there for putting this together for. Thank you. We really appreciate it.
So I'm going to just quickly summarize. It's been an exciting time. The past few couple of hours, we have shared, we have learned, and the idea and the objective is that this will be a knowledge exchange platform. And even when we think that we are learning, we realize that we have learnings to share. Because even Professor sitting and dialing in from the UK has taken something away that he's going to also apply in his context. And so this is the exciting thing about the collaborations and the learnings and the knowledge that is passed on. We continue to say that we don't want this to be a talk shop. We would rather it is a conversation that leads to action. And so I will go back to the original comments that were made at the beginning. There's an urgency. We need to move quickly. There's no planet B. COVID has changed the way we live. We have targets to meet starting from when the Paris agreements were put in place. We need to have goals that push us towards a cleaner and a greener environment. And of course, we need policies. We need policies that will also be enforced. So it's one thing to have the policies, it's another thing to enforce the policies. And then, of course, we got to the part where we realized that a radical change requires a human-centric. We need to move from that to begin to look at an eco-friendly or alternative. Of course, we've talked about education. We can't say enough of it because it is really the fundamental that we will build on. If people are going to change their minds, they have to reorientate how they think. If they reorientate how they think, they will understand the value of leaving this planet better for future generations. And then, of course, staggering figures like 7.5 kg of plastic per day happening is alarming and again reinforces the fact that we need to think. It was great to hear UNIDO talk about sharing knowledge with the media, because the media are critical stakeholders. For the past couple of years, Green Hub Africa has been doing master classes, training media professionals. We don't quite have it fully developed where we can say authoritatively that we have a desk of environmental journalists, but we recognize that whoever is reporting needs to understand the subjects better so they can write intelligently and help people appreciate the issues better. So that said, I would like to close by also saying that a lot of things have come out of thinking about redesigning. So even when we are continuing to produce, we need to think redesign. For the first time today, I understand why Coke changed the green Sprite bottle to a clear bottle. And so at the end of the day, I would like to say thank you to everyone and pass it on to the MD of Business Day, Doctor, to take on and wrap for us. The floor is yours, Doc.
Thank you so very much, Henry, for moderating those two sessions. And thank you for the energy and the time that has gone into the preparation for this.
A pleasure, sir.
So, my name is Okiti, MD Business Day, and as I close this conference and say my thank yous, I want to say that this has been a profound conference, even though it's online. This is the first of its kind that we are hosting, and the issues that we have discussed this morning cannot be more important that they have been emphasized. So it has been a profound one. So, and it is also apt that it is actually happening today on a day that we celebrate the Earth Day. And as everyone has said today or acknowledged, we know that we only have one Earth and we must protect it in order for us to continue to enjoy it. So this is very, very important. And as I listen to everyone from the opening remarks to the presentation by Edward Cannon of United Nations, and of course the first panel, the fireside chat, the second panel, I mean, the messages just kept reinforcing themselves. We have to protect the health so that the health can continue to serve us better. So let me first of all, before I now say the thank you one by one, let me first say this. Why this is the first time we are hosting this conference, it will not be the last. I can promise that another time when we come together for an environmentally based conference like this is going to be bigger and the scope is going to be broader than this. As Henry and everyone that has spoken this morning has said, the success that we desire will only happen if we all work together, both on the government, corporate, NGO, wherever side that we all belong on this earth, and we must come together to ensure that we improve the chances of sustainability, not only in Lagos State, not only in Nigeria, but also globally. So individually, let me thank some organizations that have been here today. I want to thank Green Hub, Henry Bassi, and of course, Sterling Bank and the CEO, Abaka Suleiman, the government of Lagos, Ministry of Environment, Loma, and of course, Coca-Cola. I thank Prof that joined us from the UK, Professor Hebon, and of course, every other panelist that have spoken here today. I also thank all the sponsors and the partners here that have partnered with us to deliver this today. But as Henry said, and I'm reinforcing that same message, we must not leave here and assume that this is the end of the conversation. The conversation must continue to the point for which until we achieve the success that we desire. Everyone that goes around Lagos knows that there's still so much, as Iloma Hemdi said, so much that we can do. But it's not only in Lagos. So if you go to the Niger Delta, you go to Abuja, you go everywhere. There's just so much that we must do. And we must ensure that we do them. So I thank you all, and I thank you all, our audience, from wherever you have joined us. I thank you for your time and that you have spent with us this morning. And I really do hope for all our speakers and even for you, our audience, that you enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Have a great Business Day afternoon, and God bless you. Thank you so much.
Delight was actually started to tell innovative, exciting, and positive food stories out of Lagos, Nigeria.
Being the foremost luxurious goods company in the entire West Africa is a big deal.
Will you have every opportunity? No. But you see, the opportunities you lose on account of your value system, that's your opportunity cost for what you believe, and is the price you must be willing to pay.
Thank you very much and bless you.
Because, I mean, today we're not just talking about Nigerian stocks, but we're talking about foreign stocks. Did you know that Zoom, yes, Zoom, the video conferencing app, is up more than 200% since April? Yeah, you probably didn't know. I mean, you're not interested in stocks, are you? But what that means, let me provide some context. What that means is that if you had invested, say, 5 million naira in Zoom as at April, today you would have made a 200% profit, which translates to 10 million. Let that sink in. Because, I mean, today we're not just talking about Nigerian stocks, but we're talking about foreign stocks. Did you know that Zoom, yes, Zoom, the video conferencing app, is up more than 200% since April? Yeah, you probably didn't know. I mean, you're not interested in stocks, are you? But what that means, let me provide some context. What that means is that if you had invested, say, 5 million naira in Zoom as at April, today you would have made a 200% profit, which translates to 10 million. Let that sink in. Because, I mean,